Today, there are two pivotal court hearings in the cases that allege former President Donald Trump and his allies tried to overturn the results of the 2020 election.
Yeah, in Washington, we're expecting to learn the trial date for the federal election conspiracy case. And in Atlanta, Trump's former chief of staff has a hearing that could shake up the racketeering case in Fulton County. CBS News Justice Department reporter Robert Legare is joining us and has the latest from Washington in this case. Robert, to start things off, can you remind us when each side is proposing the trial in this case begin?
Right. Hey, good morning to you both. So behind me in the federal courthouse in about an hour, attorneys for the former president and the special counsel are going to be arguing over when this trial is going to be held. The special counsel's team has said that they're ready to go by January of next year, so just a few months from now. To counter that claim, the former president's attorneys have said they want to wait until April 2026 for their trial. Now, we've seen in many of these cases, particularly the special counsel's case in Miami, that Trump's attorneys wanted to wait at least until after the 2024 presidential election, to hold that trial. Here, they're waiting over a year after that that they're requesting for the judge to hold that trial. We'll see what Judge Tanya Chutkan says here, but the special counsel's team has indicated that they're ready to go earlier, and we don't anticipate her to wait until 2026 to hold the trial.
Okay, interesting. So the timeline here pretty fluid. Rob, what more do we know about today's hearing in Washington federal court? Who do we expect will be there?
Right. So Judge Tanya Chutkan is an Obama appointee. She's overseen many January 6 cases before this one. She's the presiding judge. For the prosecution, we'll have attorneys from the special counsel's office. That office was created once special counsel Jack Smith was appointed last year. Those attorneys for the Justice Department will be there for the prosecution. On the defense side, we expect former President Donald Trump's attorney John Lauro and likely Todd Blanche to be here. They will be arguing again for that April 2026 trial date. And so we'll see what happens there. It's important to note, too, that right next door, in the courtroom right next door to where this is going to be happening, will be former Trump White House aide Peter Navarro. He's here for a pre-trial evidentiary conference in the same courthouse around the same time after he was charged with contempt of Congress.
All right, lots to follow here. Rob, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Okay, and for more analysis, we're joined this hour by CBS News legal contributor Rebecca Roiphe. Thanks so much for making time this morning, Rebecca. We appreciate this.
Thanks for having me on.
So let's start with chatting about what you'll be watching for in today's court hearing on the January 6th case and how you think this might impact Trump's other cases, because there's lots to follow here.
Right. So I think that we're going to be looking for the judge's attitude toward these two requests. There are obviously reasons why the defense may want more time. This is a complicated case with a lot of documents, materials that they will need to cover, and legal arguments to make before the trial. And so that weighs on the side of pushing things back. And judges tend not to want to push defendants too much so that they are unprepared by the time the trial date starts. That said, the judge has indicated that she believes that it is important to be able to allow justice to proceed in a timely way. So how she weighs those two concerns is really of interest to us as we watch, the public as it watches, to see whether indeed this trial will be pushed before the election or the defense will succeed in pushing it to after, at which point, of course, we all know that the former president, if he were to become the president, could appoint a prosecutor to simply dismiss these charges or perhaps pardon himself.
And has both legal and political implications. This judge is known to be very tough on January 6 defendants. Trump's legal team, though, saying they'd like this trial to begin in April of 2026. They've also indicated they want the case moved out of Washington. Where do you think the judge will weigh these two options?
I don't think she will move the case out of Washington. And again, it's not, it is possible that she would. But in general, those motions to change venue, to move things are a fairly high bar to meet. And simply saying that the population, the jury pool in a particular location tends to have a particular political bent or ideological position would not likely be sufficient to support that kind of request.
And we also know, Rebecca, there's a court hearing today in the Georgia case. Lawyers for former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows are trying to move the case to a federal court. Talk about the motivation there. Why would they want to do that? And is that likely to happen?
Right. So there are these tangle of cases. It's important to sort of try to keep them separate. And in Georgia, this is a really critical moment. This question of whether or not Mark Meadows will be able to remove the case. The standard there is whether or not he was acting within the color of his official responsibilities. And if so, he has a federal defense, and therefore it could be arguably removed to federal court. That doesn't mean it becomes a federal case. It's still the state case, but it would be tried in federal court. So the implications there are largely for the jury pool, because in the Atlanta case, if it were a state case, that is a highly Democratic area that, Fulton County, mostly Atlanta, and the president keeps insisting that he doesn't feel he can have a fair trial with a jury like that. In federal court, the jury pool is expanded, at least to some of the suburban areas. And so that would provide him with a potential jury pool that might at least arguably be composed more of his supporters. Now, those of us who are legal watchers, I don't know that that makes a critical difference, because, in any jury pool, you're looking for jurors who will be able to put aside their political positions and look at the facts and the law. But, again, this is a different kind of case. It's so charged. And so obviously each side is looking for certain sorts of advantages.
Yeah, absolutely. Among the witnesses subpoenaed to testify today in that case you're talking about is Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Can you talk about just how important he is as a witness?
I think he's critical as a witness. Obviously, we all know about that central call. That was what, essentially became public first about this Georgia case, the call that in which the former president seemed to be asking or demanding that Raffensperger find those 11,000, 12,000 votes that he needed to flip Georgia in his favor. And so, the question, he claims this was a perfect call, that he was really only asking him to find the votes that were indeed his own, that had been taken from him. But others see that call differently. And so it's at the center of this case. Obviously, it is not all of the case, and there are multiple other parts of the case that the district attorney has put together, many of which we may not even know yet. But that, of course, will be a central part in this case, and therefore his testimony is extremely important.
Okay, Rebecca Roiphe, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on.